All right, let's start with the basics. The basic thing in an entity relationship model is an entity, which is roughly a noun. It's a real world object, or it's an object that you want to represent. Maybe you're in a virtual world. But it's an object described by a set of attribute values. Okay? And an entity set is just a set of such entities. So it's a collection of entities that have similar attribute values. So classical example might be the entity set of all employees. In the ER model, all entities in an entity set have the same attributes. Okay? And each entity set will have a key, which is a set of underlined attributes, just sort of like we had in the relational model. So here you'll see that SSN, all by itself, is the key of the employees table. Social security number is what SSN stands for. Each attribute also has a domain or a type, as we did in the relational model. But, if you don't want to write it down, you don't have to, because this isn't really code. So we'll dispense with domains when we write these things down, but you can assume that there are domain constraints on these attributes. Relationships will be represented by diamonds. A relationship is an association among two or more entities. So for example, we might know that someone named Achu works in the pharmacy department. And relationships can have attributes also. A relationship set is a collection of similar relationships, much like an entity set was a collection of similar entities. So here's an example of a works-in relationship set, which has an attribute, since, and we can imagine that Achu is an employee entity in the employees entity set, and pharmacy is a department entity in the department's entity set, and there is a relationship in the works-in relationship set that connects Mr. Achu to the pharmacy department. Okay? So an n-ary relationship set R relates n entity sets, E1 through En. And each relationship in R involves a single entity from each entity set. So a particular relationship involves entity E1 from big E1, little e2 from big E2, and so on. Right? It's just a connection between an entity and each of the related entity sets. The same entity set can participate in multiple relationship sets. Here's an example where the employees entity set is participating in a works-in relationship set, but also in a reports to relationship set. And notice that it's participating in reports to twice. That entity set employees is participating as a supervisor side of that relationship set and as a subordinate or supervised, if you prefer, side of that relationship set. And so one employee might be the supervisor of another employee who is the subordinate. So an entity set can be in multiple relationship sets. It can even have multiple roles in the same relationship set.